All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here on the Jerry and Jerry Show. What a time to be a Virginia football fan. Goodness gracious, 5 straight wins, number 16 in the nation, and a clear path to the ACC championship and potentially beyond. We'll take a look at that victory for Virginia football on homecomings against Washington State. Never seen a fair catch on a kickoff called by the non-receiving player. Have you ever seen that?
I think maybe once.
Once? And how long have you been doing this?
A long time.
Long time. I've never seen that. I've never seen a fair catch. I didn't even know the rule.
Yeah.
That if you call a fair catch and you're not receiving the ball, it's placed on the 1-yard line. I didn't even know the rule. I was confused of actually what was going on.
Yeah.
The announcers were as well.
Yeah.
For one thing, the CW announcing team was horrible. It was absolutely putrid. But they were confused with what was going on.
Were they?
Absolutely confused with what was going on.
Wow.
I mean, we'll talk about this when the show gets started. There's ways to look at this. I look at it like this. Virginia found a way to win the game. Some people can say Washington State just floundered in the final stages of the game. They lost the game, if you may.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right? We'll talk about that today. Regardless, 16 in the nation, regardless, the toast of the town, regardless, Hootie Ratcliffe's terminology from outhouse to penthouse, and goodness gracious, a clear-cut path. I mean, I'm almost hesitant to say this. A clear-cut path to the ACC championship for Virginia football. As good a path to the ACC championship as anyone in the conference.
Yeah. They have over a 50% chance from what I saw at the latest odds.
I saw the same odds, over 50% chance. North Carolina, Bill Belichick, high noon on Saturday in Chapel Hill. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Syracuse and Georgia Tech as a matchup to watch. Florida State is struggling and just fracturing. So is Clemson. Goodness gracious. The coaching hierarchy in the Atlantic Coast Conference may look completely different this time next year. Those conversations and more on the Jerry and Jerry Show. Judah Whitcower, we're ready to rock and roll when you're ready. Wow, comments are coming in already. Welcome to the Jerry and Jerry Show, guys. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille network on a show that spotlights, showcases the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe, the namesake of JerryRatcliffe.com. Today's show is going to be a doozy. Tony Elliott and Virginia football, number 16 in the nation. The last time the Virginia football team has been ranked this high was darn near close to a generation ago, November 18th, 2007. When Al Groh was the head coach. That's 18 years. That's basically a generation right there. The last time Virginia's been ranked this high. We're going to talk about that on this show. We're going to talk Tony Elliott and this football team that's clicking in on all cylinders as they head into a matchup on Saturday at high noon in Chapel Hill, North Carolina with Bill Belichick, who's 2-4 overall and 0-2 in conference play. Listen to this. Virginia is a 9.5-point favorite in Chapel Hill on what is an ACC network game. We're going to talk teams to beat, the clear path for Virginia to the ACC championship. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Is Tony Elliott in line for a major contract extension at the end of this season? Boys, girls, it's a wild time to be a Cavalier fan. We'll talk Malcolm Brogdon's retirement. We'll talk the loss to Vanderbilt in the exhibition game. We'll talk the exhibition game that's upcoming against Villanova. We got recruiting to get there. Cam Robinson looks like one of the best players in the Atlantic Coast Conference right now. This linebacker is just an absolute beast. So much to cover, including finding ways to win the football game for Virginia football and Chandler Morris. Judah Whitcower behind the camera, studio camera, two-shot, Jerry Ratcliffe. My friend, what a wild time to be alive right now for orange and blue fans.
Yeah, what a reversal from this time a year ago when, and even back in the spring when we were talking about what a bad year it had been for Virginia athletics with the the football season the way it turned out, the basketball season, losing Tony Bennett, then going through a coaching change, and then the baseball program not making the tournament. And look at everything now. It's completely opposite.
It's absolutely it's Jekyll and Hyde. It is the complete opposite right now. Why don't we start with scatter shooting here with Jerry Ratcliffe? Where do you want to begin? I mean, James Franklin and Shane Beamer on a short list for the Virginia Tech job. Can't believe I'm saying Tony Elliott probably in line for a contract extension if things continue to go this way, just to keep the piranhas for pursuing our head coach and this wild and wacky world of college football. Debut Sweeney and Death Valley on the hot seat. Mike Norvell looks like he's completely out at Florida State. Bill Belichick may be out after one season in North Carolina. We may have 4 or 5 new head coaches in the ACC here, while the Virginia head coach, who is the favorite to lose his job coming into the season, is the one that may get the extension.
Exactly. And, I mean, it's just nuts. I think there's at least 10 not Power 4, but 10 Division I FBS coaching vacancies already. And like you said, there's going to be a whole lot more before the season's over. We see the patience wearing thin in fan bases, and it's going to be a wild ride the rest of the way, I think. But, it's amazing that everybody was talking about how hot Tony Elliott's seat was, and now the guy, who knows, with the way salaries are soaring. And
I mean, he's underpaid.
The
way salaries are soaring, he might be underpaid.
Exactly. And so who knows what could end up in his circle before this is over with.
Absolutely bananas. The Virginia football team beats Washington State on homecomings. Only at Virginia is homecoming called homecomings. But hey, it's the school that calls freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, and the campus, the grounds, and the academic village, and the rotunda, and a lot of other terminology. But that's what we love about Virginia. On homecomings, Virginia gets a fair catch. This is even tough for me to say. A fair catch on a kickoff after Virginia tied the game on a Will Bettridge field goal. The fair catch was called by the non-receiving player, which resulted in the ball being placed on the 1-yard line deep in the fourth period that translated into Cam Robinson's safety in a go-ahead game-winning safety on the heels of a fair catch called by a non-receiving player.
It was bizarre. And those are the kind of things that used to happen to Virginia. And they would lose games like that. But now they've won 3 games in a row in dramatic fashion, which Virginia fans were not accustomed to seeing. So they've learned how to win. But then again, it all goes back to the transfer portal and bringing in guys with experience that have played a lot of football elsewhere, and quality players and quality depth, and it's showing up at the right times. But I mean, it was interesting seeing how things evolved at the end there with Virginia's defense putting pressure on Washington State, backed up in its own end zone, forced an interception that, like you said, by Brevard, who has, I think, 3 interceptions already, and put him in position to kick a field goal to tie it, and then kept them backed up because of that snafu with their special teams, and took advantage of it. And that used to be the way Virginia would lose a game, but now they're finding ways to win, and that's what good teams do.
And finding ways to win, that's what good teams do. And this team is 6-1. They're 5. They're. Can you believe I'm about to say this? They're 6-1 overall. You know what their ACC conference record? Of course you do. They're undefeated in conference play at 3-0 in the conference.
Yeah, Virginia and Georgia Tech.
I mean, Georgia Tech is 4-0. SMU still there.
That's right.
SMU still there at 3-0, 5-2 overall for SMU. Virginia, a clear-cut path, ladies and gentlemen, to the ACC championship at North Carolina Saturday, ACC Network, 12 o'clock kick. Travel to California, host Wake Forest at Duke, might be the toughest matchup on paper. Finish against Virginia Tech. Anything can happen around Thanksgiving with the Hokies at Scott Stadium. Last time this happened, Virginia Tech at Scott Stadium, the Hokies were stomping and dancing and stampeding on the Virginia 50-yard logo while the man who was operating the sprinklers doused them with sprinkler water to teach them a lesson, only for the lesson to be learned by the sprinkler operator after Carla Williams made him apologize within 24 hours after losing the game to Virginia Tech. Just a wild turn of events. That was that was yesteryear. Today is the present, and this team looks like it has got a clear-cut path to the ACC championship.
They really do. I mean, their fate is in their own hands. I know that's somewhat of a cliche, but it's so true in this case. And it's not like that. It's a cakewalk because some of these other teams that still on the schedule can jump up and bite you. And we've seen Wake Forest beat people that you probably didn't expect them to. Duke is they're dangerous, especially at home. They could have won that Georgia Tech game. They played pretty well for the most part. Cal is, they're at home. Who knows? They have potential. Virginia was obviously favored and should win that game, but it is cross country. And then, as you said, the Hokies. Who knows? Bill Belichick. You hope this is not the week that he finds a way to upset somebody because. As bad as they have played, they did play better and probably should have won that game at Cal last Saturday night. And it's the South's oldest rivalry. It's a big game. I don't know what kind of crowd they're going to have after they've been losing, but it's a potential pothole in the road to the ACC championship game. So you can't take anything for granted at this point.
I totally agree. Let's get to the Washington State game for a couple minutes more. 22-20, the victory on homecomings. Washington State was heavily underdogged in this one to the tune of 17.5 points. The line opened at 16.5. I think both you and I thought a 17.5 point line was just way too large.
Way too large.
Way too large. It clearly showed that the retail bettor, the non-sharp or shark bettor, was infatuated with the Virginia story, and a lot of the retail betting public was riding that Cinderella wave to inflate the line. Anyone that follows the team knows the program, knew 17.5 was too much. And it was a dogfight. This was a dogfight.
It was.
This was a dogfight. Chandler Morris, not his best game. The offense struggled for maybe the first time, really struggled like this on the season. Even Jamari Taylor, who looks like one of the best tailbacks in the Atlantic Coast Conference, 2.8 yards per carry. Offense didn't do much, but the defense really came up, especially in the second half. Tony Elliott challenged his team in the locker room to come out in the final two periods and play Virginia football. And Hootie Ratcliffe, they did just that.
Yeah, and I think if anybody was paying attention and listened to what Virginia's coordinator said at midweek last week, that this Washington State team had really improved. They used their bye week, made a quarterback change, a guy that's playing some pretty good football, and their defense. You knew they were going to get better because that guy had won a national championship, maybe two, out at South Dakota State, and they play some pretty good football out there. And so, even though it's a lower division, but you could see that they had made improvements the way they walked into Oxford, Mississippi, and gave Ole Miss a run for its money and could have won that game. They play some unique stuff on defense that gives people fits, and with the quarterback playing more confidently, they're going to look back and see that this was a much better win than people are maybe giving him credit for, because Washington State was just improved. And you're right, he had no magic words at halftime, and he wasn't going to scream. And he told him, he says, there ain't going to be a whole lot of screaming. You just guys got to make a collective decision. If you want everything you want out of this season, you're going to have to put in an investment in the second half and turn this thing around.
And they did. And they did. Tony Elliott, after the game, in the post-game and the on-field interview, said that's a really good football team in Washington State.
Yeah.
Made sure to say that Washington State was a really, really good football team. They found a way to win this contest. Can we highlight the defense? What stood out to you from a defensive front that was Devin Neal, Cam Robinson, James Jackson, Mitchell Melton, Jacob Holmes, Ethan Minter, just to name a few, that were absolutely dynamic and dynamite? Yeah,
Carter and some other Jackson, some of the other guys. They really buckled down, and they essentially shut Washington State down in the fourth quarter. Washington State had 8 yards of total offense in the fourth quarter, and Virginia owned the ball for more than 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, which was sort of a reverse of what happened in the first half. And they kept Washington State's offense off the field, and they just made big play after big play. And Cam Robinson has emerged into, if he keeps playing like this, he could be the ACC Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean, he's looking like a first round, second round draft pick to me.
No, absolutely. There were NFL scouts at the game Saturday night, and I dare say that some of them were there to see him. ACC Defensive Linebacker of the Week the last 2 weeks in a row, just making gigantic, enormous plays. And I'll tell you, when Tony Elliott and those guys got his commitment a few years ago, they were celebrating over at the McHugh Center. And Tony said that he wanted to build his program around this 4-star kid who chose Virginia over Florida State and Tennessee, and now we can see why.
Cam Robinson against Florida State, 10 tackles, 1 sack. Cam Robinson against Louisville, 10 tackles, an interception, return for a touchdown. Cam Robinson against Washington State, 8 tackles, and the go-ahead safety to win the contest. Make a very legitimate argument. This may be the best player on the football team, Cam Robinson.
Very well could be.
And how many games did he miss? The first game was against Stanford in limited capacity.
He didn't play against NC State.
Didn't play against William & Mary?
I don't think so. And then
no, he did not.
I think Stanford, he finally came back and played sparingly.
Limited, yeah. So really this guy's played 3 full games. Mm-hmm. If this guy is playing the entire season, you're probably, and I understand the importance of Chandler Morris, but this guy probably is your best overall player on the team if he's chalking up and racking up against Coastal and William & Mary and NC State and playing a full game against Stanford. The totals, and on the season, he's got 35 tackles on the season. He's got a sack. He's got a fumble recovery. He's got a pick that he returned for a touchdown, the go-ahead safety. I mean, those numbers look completely different. Maybe the only reason he's not the Defensive Player of the Year is because he missed those games to start the campaign and didn't rack up the cake statistics or the puffery from a statistic standpoint. Now Virginia football turns their attention to a Bill Belichick football team that is a shadow of what folks thought they may be in the beginning of the season. To say that North Carolina is reeling is an understatement. Belichick has to do midweek press conferences, not about his opponent, but about the fact that he's committed to Chapel Hill long term. And at that press conference, the school chancellor, the athletic director, and Board of Visitors members are in attendance to give the perception of unification.
Yeah, as long as I've been in this business, I've never seen that before at any school, and I've covered 5 or 6 different schools. But that's that had to be mind blowing to see those guys roll into your press conference. But yeah, and, you know, it's bizarre because you keep hearing all these weird stories coming out of Chapel Hill with about Lombardi, Lombardo, the general manager, that nobody can stand the guy, and all kinds of friction and stuff that they're having to shoot down with not really press releases, but just statements that you know that it's an exaggeration. We don't know whether it is or not, but you know, the fact that Chandler Morris was interested in playing at Carolina, and Lombardo told the staff down there, according to the Athletic, that he wasn't good enough to play for Carolina, and I'm sure that's a point that Chandler Morris will try to drive home Saturday in Chapel Hill.
This contest is one where Vegas sees Virginia as, again, a heavy favorite on the road in Chapel Hill. Virginia, 9.5-point favorite. Over-unders at 51.5. A little different than the Washington State game, where the line opened at 16.5 and then ballooned to, I guess, increased to 17.5. This line opened at 10.5, or excuse me, I stand corrected. This line opened at 9.5 and has ballooned to 10.5. So it's actually upticked the betting line from 9.5 opening to 10.5. I'm looking at it now. It seems straightforward to me. Keys to victory for this Virginia football team: establish the run, keep Chandler Morris safe, protected, and upright in the pocket, and then play action once those safeties start looking to defend the run, and then Morris can go over top with some very deep wide receiving core.
Yeah, and Carolina's offense is ranked 131 out of 134 schools. So even though they did make some strides at Cal the other night, it's still an offense that is struggling. And I think Virginia's defense will be trying to tee off on Gio Lopez and some of their other players. But I think it's going to be imperative that Virginia regains its offensive form. They came out sluggish after that bye week against Washington State, again, who was better than given credit for. But they want to try to get off to a fast start like they had been and get that offense rolling early so that they won't have to sweat it out in the fourth quarter.
Comments coming in faster than I can keep up. Let's go to the YouTube channel. Cliff Daisy's watching on the Eastern Shore. He says it's a warm morning and greetings from the Eastern Shore. He watched the entire game thinking they would lose. This group does not give up. Can't wait for the Wake Forest game because he will be there. First time he's able to attend on the season. He also agrees with another commenter on the YouTube chat box, Derek Jones, that the Virginia Tech matchup is the toughest on the schedule that's left because the Hokies do not fear Virginia, regardless if Virginia Tech has inferior talent. Daisy agrees with Jones on this. We know Virginia Tech, the history, and boy, it's a sour history for Virginia fans when it comes to Virginia Tech. On paper, however, the toughest matchup that's left on the schedule, at least from an on-paper standpoint, and trust me, as a guy that's been following Virginia football since I was knee-high to my dad, who went to UVA, I went to UVA, my brother went to UVA, we live in Charlottesville, I understand the history of Virginia Tech. On paper, the second-to-last game at Duke in Durham is the most challenging one. The Blue Devils 4-3 overall, 3-1 in conference play, and kind of on the outside looking in for the ACC championship. At this point, Georgia Tech, Virginia, and SMU, the only unblemished ACC teams. What do you make of the rest of the schedule, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe, with a lot of people asking for your opinion?
Well, I agree. I think the Duke game is probably the toughest of what's remaining because they're playing good football down there, and they've spent a lot of money in the portal too. And they have. That's
a good team.
They have been. They haven't. They were ahead of Virginia in that regard for a couple of years, and their environment at their stadium has gotten much better in the past year or two, with Manny Diaz getting things going. The guy that's at Texas A&M now was there before and turned things around. But they've been good. They could have won that game against Georgia Tech last Saturday, but Tech. Again, I think, as we talked about last week, I think Haynes King was the difference in that game. And but Duke is very capable, and at 3-1 in the conference, they're still in the running to make it to Charlotte. So if they can remain with just one loss heading into that game, that's a very dangerous football team playing at home. We don't know what kind of shape the Hokies are going to be in at the end of the season right now, because they still have some tough games ahead on their schedule. They could be reeling by the time they get to the end of the season and come into Scott Stadium. So we don't know. Normally that's a brutal rivalry game, but if they're in, they may be so demoralized at that point that it may not be the usual Tech team that shows up.
William McChesney wants some insight, if you don't mind, on the Virginia injury report. And I think it starts on special teams with a dynamic returner who's also a key contributor with the wide receiving core. Anywhere you want to go on the injury report?
Well, again, as usual on Tuesdays, we won't know anything until we talk to Coach Elliott at 11:30 today. I think Cam Ross got banged up pretty good in that controversial call that looked like it was targeting to me and to most other people watching the game.
It seemed like clear-cut definition of targeting.
It's such an inconsistent call by officials. I wish they could clear that up somehow going forward, but I think Chandler Morris is a little more beat up than we realize, and I think that shoulder injury he suffered in the first game of the season still bothers him a little bit. So I think somebody landed on that in this game, and but he's a gamer and he's a warrior, and he's not going to back off at all.
James Madison makes that point. He says, is it just me or does Chandler Morris look like he's playing injured? He hasn't looked the same since Florida State. He seems to be missing throws he's always made earlier in the season, and he looks like he really doesn't want to run the ball. What do you guys think? I see a lot of that, Hootie.
I think they don't want him to run the ball any more than he has to, but I don't think there's any reluctance there. I think he is playing hurt, and I don't know that they'll confirm that, but because you don't want to tip off other teams, although they should be able to figure that out by watching film, the way coaches break film down. But I think he'll probably be fine this week and come back and return to his normal self. I think the rust of laying off a week in a bye week like that, sometimes you lose your momentum. And even though it was good for them in terms of getting some bodies back and stuff, I think it slowed their momentum a little bit because that offense was rolling, and they need to get that cranked up again early against the Tar Heels this week.
Comments continue to come in. This comment comes in from outside Atlanta, Georgia, where there's a lot of Virginia football fans.
Yeah.
This is an interesting comment. With the changes that are being made in the ACC, does Virginia think about extending Tony Elliott before the season ends so they don't risk potentially losing him?
I don't think they'll have to. I think he has a really unique bond with Carla Williams because she showed a lot of faith in him, and I think there's a really strong bond between those two. He makes a point to acknowledge her and thank her after some of these wins that they've had lately down in the tunnel there. But no, I don't think there'll be a mad dash to extend him, and even if there would be, I'm not sure we would know about it until later. Who knows? But I mean, if the guy continues to win like this, you know that people are going to come after him, because if you turn Virginia around after 3 seasons like they had, the lowest win total of any Power 4 school over the past 3 years, and you turn them around and get 8, 9, 10 wins or something, there's going to be people knocking on your door. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people are already contacting his agent just to put out feelers, because that's the way this world is right now in college football. And so, but I don't think that they're going to make a mad dash to do anything before the season is over. I think they'll kind of play it out, and but I wouldn't expect them to extend things too long after the season's over. I think because of the very threat of other people knocking on the door, you don't want to take chances. But again, I think the bond is so strong between Tony and Carla that I think most likely he'll say, I ain't going anywhere, so you don't have to worry about me.
Comments. This is an interesting one. And I'm wondering the same, and it's crazy I'm saying this, but is Tony Elliott going to be on the short list for other jobs?
Well, yeah, I'm sure he will be. Just from what we just said.
He has the least amount of wins in power football for his first 3 years on the job.
Yeah.
This year, an anonymous donor invests how much money is the rumor?
Well, we know it was $25 million, but we've heard, I heard this past week that somebody said it could have been up to $40 million.
Okay.
So I don't know that,
Yeah.
but that's a rumor.
It's a rumor. It's a rumor.
Yeah.
He then goes, Virginia and this collective, they go and essentially buy a football team where 40% plus of the roster is brand new. Talented guys who get paid to play.
Yep.
Now we're not there yet, but contending at this point of the season, that's fair, for an ACC championship. That's very fair. That 6 or 7 games, even if he makes the ACC championship, is enough to supersede the first 3 years?
I think in the minds of people who are shopping, it will be, because you have to look at the reversal. You have to look at what he has been able to do when he had the revenue or the funds to rebuild a team. They knew what to do with them, with the money. They did a great job in the portal of finding the right kind of players that fit, which is a little harder here than it is at most schools, because they had to fit academically as well as athletically. You got to remember that Tennessee tried to hire him. Well, it depends on who you believe. Some people at Tennessee say they didn't, but we heard that they did try to hire him away from Clemson a year or two before he came to Virginia. That he was being courted by some other schools. So, and he came from Clemson, which had incredible success. So you add all those factors together, and I think people will be coming. He's probably on the short list of some ADs out there right now, but doesn't mean they'll get him. But that I think that the people will approach his agent to find out if he might be willing to talk. I don't think he will be.
ACC looks like it could be a completely different coaching hierarchy. I mean, now going into next season, let's talk Virginia Tech. They've already replaced their head coach. They have an interim there.
Interim, yeah.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is pursuing Frank Beamer's son, Shane Beamer, who seems to have potentially lost the fan base at South Carolina. The team is underachieving, had high expectations going into the year. Shane Beamer saying all the right things. He's committed to being the Gamecocks football coach. He loves it here. Virginia Tech is going to, your words, one of your favorite phrases, roll up and open up a Brinks truck for Shane Beamer to take over for a Virginia Tech program that hasn't had success since Frank Beamer was there. James Franklin's on the short list as well, we're reading, for the Virginia Tech job. The Florida State job looks like it's about to open. They go from being an Alabama beater, and Alabama's one of the best football teams in the country right now.
I still can't figure that one out.
Literally one of the best football teams in the country, the Crimson Tide, to now Florida State's 3-4 overall, 0-4 in conference play. Mike Norvell and his staff have when you include the staff, at the end of the season and the head coach, a buyout north of $70 million, which is absolute insanity. Bill Belichick, who knows what's going to happen there, especially if the season goes terribly the rest of the way with how morale and the fractured locker room and all the other soap opera that's going on there. Dabo Swinney, I'm a huge Swinney fan. He's won, 2 national championships?
Yeah.
How many ACC championships?
Oh, I can't even count them all. There's so many.
More than I can count.
Yeah.
But Death Valley wants him out. He's 3-4, 2-3 in conference play. Boston College is 1-6, 0-4.
They're atrocious.
Absolutely atrocious.
Stanford is going to have a changeover.
Stanford's got an interim in Frank Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Luck's been brought in the GM to hire a head coach. You got Syracuse now they had some bad luck with their starting quarterback.
Right.
And a knee injury, but they're 3-4, 1-3. I mean,
a lot of people like Fran Brown too. So he won't. If they make a decision to get rid of him, he won't have any trouble finding another job.
He'll find a job in a heartbeat. He's a player's coach.
Yeah.
This could be a completely different coaching look in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
It really could be, and I mean, it could be madness by the end of the season or early December. It makes it interesting, that's for sure, to follow what's happening. And there's so many. The bizarre thing is that so many of the good programs that are floundering like this, and it's just amazing. It's stuff we never thought we would see, that's for sure.
We never thought we'd see Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State. I mean, yeah, we probably thought it with Virginia Tech because we knew they were severely underfunded, but not Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State.
No, they have plenty of money.
So much money, and especially with what the expectations were before the season started. Jeremy Wilson in Eastern Tennessee. Is Tony Elliott on the short list at Clemson if Swinney continues to struggle?
That's a good question. I don't know. Some of the fans there were not really crazy about Tony at the end, but when he was flirting with other jobs and then came here, so I'm sure he had those who were in his corner, but there was a lot of stuff on their message boards and stuff like that where they didn't mind seeing him leave. So I'm not sure that he would be on the short list to come back. I would think if Clemson's going to hire somebody, they're going to have to hire somebody that's a proven guy on the Power 4 level, somebody that's and there's not a lot of those guys out there. So
right.
Somebody that's done it year after year after year instead of just
one season.
One season, yeah.
Rob Gray watching the program. I don't think teams will be beating down Coach Elliott's door until he has multiple years of success. Then on a completely different page, Jennifer, who's watching in Allentown, Pennsylvania, makes this comment. Tony Elliott absolutely is going to be on the short list for a lot of jobs. It's a what have you done for me lately world in college football.
She's right.
So you have two different viewpoints of what's happening in this sport. Regardless, your take on some of these buyouts, Hootie. Franklin, $48 million. Norvell and his staff north of $70 million. These buyout numbers are the Indiana head coach.
$93 million over 8 years. It's gotten out of hand, and I mean, we thought it was a lot when Nick Saban was getting $10 million, but as one AD told me back before, well before Saban even decided to get out of the sport, having Nick Saban in your head coach's office is like a permit to print money, because he was bringing in so much revenue into the University of Alabama. But we thought that was a lot of money, but now it's gotten advanced to even more disproportionate numbers that are mind-boggling. I mean, these are pro football numbers, maybe even beyond some pro football numbers that we're seeing emerge in this wacky world that we're living in right now, and it's just going to continue to grow and become even almost obscene, what the kind of numbers that are being thrown around out there.
Chris West, watching the program, he says, let's hope Virginia Tech doesn't get James Franklin, because he has a history of recruiting in the Commonwealth, the Mid-Atlantic, the same type of guys that UVA goes after. He spoke on College Game Day this past weekend, and he said his objective, James Franklin, is to immediately get back into coaching. His exact words, I have no hobbies. I don't play golf. I don't fish. All I do is coach football. Yeah. That's my life. Yeah. His exact words.
Yeah, and a lot of these coaches are like that. And he and it's been that way for a long time. George Welsh was like that. He didn't have any hobbies really either. So, and I think part of his $48 million buyout is attuned to him seeking another job. I think if he just decides to sit out, I don't think he gets
You're 100%
the whole money. So. Yeah. And he does have strong roots. I mean, he was on Ralph Friedgen's staff at Maryland and recruited Virginia back in the day. So he is a threat recruiting-wise if he would end up in Blacksburg. No question about that.
Comments continue to come in. He's got a press conference at 11:30, so in about 60 or 90 seconds, you got Malcolm Brogdon.
Wow.
I know, it flies by, right?
I can't believe it's 11 o'clock.
45 minutes has flown by in 4 minutes. I just looked at it for the first time. I got pinged. It notifies me to close the show at 11 because he has to haul ass to the press conference and find parking. Yeah. 60 seconds left, please. Your beautiful brain here. The loss to Vanderbilt in the exhibition. Villanova on the horizon, and a Malcolm Brogdon retirement.
Yeah, I thought the Vanderbilt game was interesting. There were some things that gave Ryan Odom and his staff to work on in the week leading up to this Friday night's Villanova game. They had trouble keeping Vandy out of the paint. Vandy handled their press well, and Ryan said afterward that it takes time to get that press down. It did at VCU, and it'll take time here, and I'm sure he'll get that resolved before the season gets too deep. I think we'll see a lot of changes in terms of their being better prepared to keep people out of the paint when Villanova comes to town. Malcolm Brogdon was a saint the time he was here. Helped put Virginia on the map with Joe Harris. Was a guy that they recruited almost by accident. Richie McKay told me he was at a tournament looking at somebody else and kept noticing Brogdon and said, I gotta get this kid, and then found out that he'd only been offered by Ivy League schools. And had to convince his grandmom that Virginia was a better place for him than Harvard. But what a classic young man he was. One of the few guys that has their number retired at Virginia. And he's not a one-dimensional person. It's not just about basketball for him. He we'll see him making headlines in some other world going forward.
I think it's politics.
Politics is a strong possibility.
Yeah, I think it's politics. Jerry Ratcliffe, guys, jerryratcliffe.com, jerryratcliffe.com. I'm on the website every single morning, literally every morning. Today it was over iced coffee and some frosted strawberry Pop-Tarts.
You're making me hungry.
While I was reading jerryratcliffe.com, our youngest son was having a hard time getting dressed, so there were no bacon and eggs this morning, but the Pop-Tarts did well. Go to jerryratcliffe.com, read everything UVA related. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera, the MVP. This show archived wherever you get your podcasting content. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody. The show flew by.
Cool. That really did.